Humans weren't built for this. The constant pings, endless feeds, shrinking social spaces. Is there a surprise why so many of us say our social battery is dead? This isn't a weakness. It's not about introversion or extroversion. It's our biological need for connection colliding with a culture that's robbed us of all the spaces and ways that we're built to connect. I have honestly lost count of how many times you all have asked me, why is it so draining to talk to people? Why is it so hard to reach out when the thing I want most is connection with another human being? This is clearly the number one issue you are all feeling in this community. I've been hearing it over and over and over again. And I do not have all the answers. I'm still figuring a lot of this out myself. This idea of a social battery and a dead social battery is kind of new for me. And it's not really a scientific term, but it is a community term. It is something you all are experiencing. So that's why we're doing a live stream today. We're going to talk about this together. So if responding to a text feels like climbing Mount Everest, you're not alone and you're in the right place. So let's work through this together. Here's what we're going to do today in this video. Number one, we're going to define the problem. What is a social battery? What it really means. We're going to explain how we got here, how things have changed, and how this world is not really like the world I grew up in. And number three, we're going to discuss what we can do about it. What are some practical things you can start putting into practice right now if you're feeling that super social battery depleting. All right, let's talk about this. And before we get into all the details, just a few reminders. Number one, this is not therapy. This is education and entertainment. Hopefully, sometimes it's educational. Hopefully, a lot of times it's entertaining as well. It's a cozy space where we can learn from each other. So what that requires is, number one, kindness first. I love the chat. The chat has been always a kind place in my live stream. So please speak like you would to a friend that is having a hard day. We're all going through stuff. We don't know what everyone else is going through. So just speak with kindness and approach other people as you would a friend who's having a hard time. Also, awkward is welcome. We're talking about having dead social batteries. We're talking about having a hard time making for a connection. We're going to talk about not knowing what to say. So being awkward is totally okay, totally welcome, no worries. So it's okay not to know what to say or to say it weird. Just embrace the mess. That's why we're all here. Keep it light. I want you to speak your truth, but also skip the heavy graphic stuff. Again, you never know what might be difficult for someone else. So if you're struggling with something and you want to share that, just keep it light and keep out all the details. And last but not least, stick with the vibe, stay on topic, stay curious, and have fun. So looking forward to the chat. Mia Ashley, good to see you here, Ashley. Looking forward to the cozy conversation. Always looking forward to a cozy conversation. All right, so let's get into this. Before we dive into all the details, I'd really love to get a sense from the people who are here. If you could complete the sentence, I came to this live stream because. Just tell me what comes after the because. What is it that brought you to the live stream? Maybe you're interested in this whole idea of a social battery. Maybe you're bored, you got nothing else to do, and you saw my face pop up and you're like, I'm going to see what Dr. Ali is up to. Maybe you have no idea who the heck Dr. Ali is and you just clicked on a random video because you're kind of feeling out of it. Let me know. Meme Machine is back. Meme Machine, I am still remembering the amazing question that you gave me last week, or the amazing comment you made about your body's trying to protect you from the danger by becoming the danger. I was thinking about that all weekend. So good to see you back here, Meme Machine. So I'd love to hear from folks what brought you to the live stream and I will take the opportunity to have a sip of coffee. All right, we got first comment here from Vandalay. Vandalay, related to Vandalay Industries, the Seinfeld episode? I don't know. Let me know. Maybe not. Probably not, but that's where my head goes. I started my master's and I overdid it with my interactions based on my social interactions. Yeah. So this happens to me when I am at a professional conference, when there's a bunch of other psychologists or YouTubers or all that stuff. There's all these meetings that you have to, these meetings and panels where you sit in a room, and for a long time you have to pay attention and you learn stuff, right? And then right after that, there's all these social interactions, like these social networking events, and in between you're running into people, and there's a lot of people you're seeing that maybe you met once or twice before and you can't quite remember their name, and you're trying to look your best, and maybe there's other people there that recognize you, and you're kind of on a lot. That's where my social battery totally is just dies completely. It's these situations where you feel like you have to perform, keep your attention going, and there's a lot of chaotic, unpredictable social stuff happening. That's where mine just totally dies out. And that is really difficult for me. And folks, I'm extremely extroverted. I am like, um, one of my friends described me as aggressively extroverted, which I think is pretty true. And that's where I want to make it clear, like, social batteries are not about introversion, extroversion. It's not about social anxiety or not. We're going to get into the definition here, but you can be anywhere on all of these spectrums, including the spectrum, including autism spectrum, including everything on that whole scale of neurodiversity. Everything, you can be anywhere on there, and there's certain things that can deplete your social battery pretty quickly, and there's certain things that have happened in culture that have made it very hard to have that fully restored social battery. Mia Ashley says, talking to people after talking to people for a living gets draining. Ashley, how are you completely reading my mind about the story I'm going to share? Oh my goodness, I'm going to get into that. So I'm going to get back to your comment in just a moment. Let's see. Marshall 9093 says, hi, it takes so much effort to work up the energy to make phone calls for personal business and go out. This is something that I don't think is talked about a lot. When your work involves a lot of social interaction, whether it is over email or chat or DMs, or you're in sales, or you're in mental health, or you're in customer service, any of this kind of stuff, when you're doing this social interaction stuff, that is social interaction. And afterwards, the idea of doing something social for fun or for family or other obligations that you might have, that's kind of the last thing you want to do. And that gets back to Mia Ashley's comment as well. And it's definitely something I'm going to talk about. A good friend of mine is in sales, and he's like in customer success, which is, it's kind of sales, but it's also customer service. It's kind of like selling stuff and keeping those people as your clients. And it, he, so much of his job becomes trying to solve people's problems, trying to make sure they're paying their bills, and most of those people not wanting to pay their bills and still get their problem solved. So it's like a lot of really complicated social stuff that's not really fun. And when he's making these phone calls, they're the last phone calls the other person wants to get and the last phone call he wants to make. He's done. at the end of this. He's beyond done at the end of his day. And his team has also gotten smaller and smaller because people have left his company because his company is not being nice to people. And so my friend has had more and more work. And so his desire and capacity to hang out is really limited. And when I see him on times when my mutual friend and we kind of get him to go out and we are also able to. And by the way, he's also a young dad. So he has a less than a 1-year-old. So his energy is really low. When we're actually able to get together, he kind of looks like a bit of a zombie. Like he's so done with everything, with everyone. So I don't think that's really talked about enough, is how much social interaction can be difficult in a workplace and make your social life difficult for you. Meme Machine says, I'm here because I'm feeling isolated in my unemployment and want to learn more about my social battery and potentially how to manage when I start working again. I got a job offer, by the way. Yes! Meme Machine, congratulations on the job offer. There are so many cultural, structural things that have changed that is making this hard. And I'm going to dive into that. And I think Meme Machine, what you are going through is something that a lot of people are experiencing as well. So I'm glad you're here. By the way, Meme Machine, do you make a lot of memes? Or are you just like really good at like eating them and consuming them? I'm just kind of curious. Let me see here. Vyaslava says, hi, I'm Ves, and I'm curious to hear what you've got to share, and I'm also glad that you're taking the time and posting new content. That's simply why I'm here. Thanks. I am, Ves, thank you so much for that comment. A big part of what I am trying to do now is just show up for you all in regular ways, in consistent, reliable ways. I am done with two things. I'm done with getting in my head about trying to make perfect content and the perfect title and the perfect thumbnail and then the perfect script and trying to get all my information perfectly right. Blah, de blah. Because you know what that has done? That has done like me going like a year and a half without posting any content because I never got it just right. Instead, what I'm done with that. And what I'm also done with, one of the reasons why I'm done with that is because I think AI can do that better. AI can just explain stuff to you better than I can. But what I can do better than AI, and what I think I can do better than a lot of folks, is I can kind of be there for you in a reliable way. We can have fun. We can have conversations. We can learn from each other. I can show up for you. That's what I want to do. I want to show up for you. So thank you, Vess, for showing up for me. And I promise you keep showing up for me. I'm going to keep showing up for you. Let me see. Lowly Man for Christ says, things got really hard, especially when the world changed in 2020. We're going to talk about that. That is definitely a big part of it. And then I'm going to take one more comment from Marshall before going forward. Oh, I'm very much of an introvert, and I'm an editor who has worked from home since March of 2020. My social skills are probably stunted to begin with. Who knew that as the world changed in 2020, that as opportunities for remote work increased, that we would be dealing with this massive social change. In hindsight, it makes so much sense that if we shut the world down for so many people, if we disrupt the order of things, if we start encouraging people to socially distance themselves, gosh, that was such a stupid term. It should have been called physical distancing, not social distancing. Because you know what happened is people social distanced. They completely cut off from each other in so many different ways. Man, that was a stupid term. Not that I'm bitter about it. And Lowly Man for Christ says, I've found that unplugged from tech periodically, but on a regular basis helps me be more present and energetic for real socialization. Yes, we're going to talk about that. Okay, I'm going to take one more comment because Flora's Blind Box just commented. Hi, guys. Really nice to see you all here live. I've learned that I have difficulty to socialize with more than 2 people, so I prefer to have small group talks with lots of quality than too many people. Yes, yes, and we're going to talk about this too. Awesome. All right, I love you, chat. Chat is representing. We got some great comments here. And I think all your comments really speak to the range of stuff that is related to having a dead social battery. So let's get into some definitions here. And this is where what I want to share is social battery is not like a professional mental health psychology term. This is not something I ever came across in grad school. It's not something psychologists are really talking about in terms of a scientific term. What it absolutely is, it's a community term that's coming up from the internet. In one of the things that I love most about the internet is how these things come from communities. What's so cool about the internet is when new communities can form around an idea. So I'll just give you a quick example. Synesthesia, misophonia, ASMR, these are all aspects of the human experience that professionals didn't really know about until people on the internet started talking about it, coming together, forming ideas about what the common experience was that they're going through. So synesthesia is when your senses are sort of changed, where you might see music, like you hear certain music and you might see like different colors form. ASMR is when certain sounds are just soothing. Oh, it feels like this relaxing sensation. When someone might be talking like this, maybe it reminds you of when you were like a little kid and your parent was whispering into your ear and it was so soothing, right? And misophonia is sort of the opposite, is where you hear certain sounds and they feel very, very anger producing for you. These are all aspects of the human experience that emerge from communities, and social batteries and having a dead social battery is one of those terms. This isn't a term that has come from professionals. So part of why I'm doing this live stream is because it's a community term. I want to talk about this all in community. I'm figuring it out still. Also, the reason why I'm doing this as a live stream is because having a dead social battery, you're inherently struggling with connection and community. So why don't we create that connection and community in real time here? So let's define this. I love the comments that keep coming in. I'm so excited to see all the connection happening. That's why we're here. Love you, chat. I love you, folks. All right, let's define this. So to me, a social battery it's that mental fuel you spend on people. And like any battery, it needs a recharge. So you have a certain amount of it, and as you go through social experiences, it is depleting. Now, people like me who might be aggressively extroverted, as my best friends call me, we might have a bigger social battery. And then there's people like my wife who are much more introverted, and their desire and capacity for social interaction is way smaller. And then you might have people who are more neurodiverse, and there's different things that can activate their social battery, and that also can deplete it differently. So we all have different capacities. And regardless of where we are, moving through social situations is going to deplete them in different ways. So social battery, it's that mental fuel for social interaction. We're all on the same page there? Yes? Good. All right, let's move forward. So what's a dead social battery then? Well, a dead social battery is when you want connection and you don't have energy for it. Now, if you didn't want connection, it doesn't matter if you have a dead social battery or not. You're kind of doing your own thing. Like the art of being alone has sort of disappeared. This idea of seeking solitude has we don't really talk about that anymore. But um, the difference between solitude and loneliness is really about intention. So if you want to be alone, that's fine. You can be in a state of solitude. You can go on a hike. You can spend the weekend at home. You can read your book. You can play your video game. You can go on a photography walk, whatever it is. Solitude is when your desire is to be by yourself. Your desire is to do your own thing. But loneliness is when there's a gap, when you desire connection and you're not getting it. And that's more where having a dead social battery can be a problem. It's when you want connection and you just don't have the energy for it. This is when responding to a text message can feel like climbing Mount Everest, when a small social task can feel so monumental. And as I started to receive this idea from you all, lowly man, I'm so glad that this is fun. This is fun for me too. And I'm glad you all are connecting and sharing. So this idea, as I started hearing this from you all about having a dead social battery, and by the way, when I posted, does anyone have a story about having a dead social battery on my mailing list, on YouTube, and all these different places on Instagram, I was flooded with responses. I have received more responses to this than any other topic I've done before. So this is something I know is huge. And when I started hearing about this, when I started hearing about having this dead social battery, that I just don't have the energy for this, I started hearing this from this community. I started hearing this from my cousin's kids. I started hearing this from people I work with, all this sort of stuff. At first, I was honestly confused about it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me because I knew social anxiety and I knew depression and not having energy and not feeling like anything is really giving you joy anymore. But this idea that these small social actions are just so depleting, at first it didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then I remember this time in my life where I absolutely had a dead social battery. So I wrote this article. I quit being a therapist so I could be a better husband. And that article, you can still find it now. It's still out on Medium. But the article is really about when I was at Columbia University Medical Center back in New York. Now I live in California, but back in New York, what was happening there is the hospital started asking us to see more and more and more patients with the same amount of time that we have. And so what that meant is I was working longer and later, trying to squeeze in all of those patients. And what also happened is I was getting more phone calls from the people I work with, more emails from the people I work with, and I was getting stretched really, really, really thin. A lot of work, getting stretched thin, and I was in a system that was supporting me less and less. So I left that job. My wife and I moved to California. We made a bunch of different changes in my life. But the reason why I wanted to leave that job is because when I was clocking out from a overly full day of mental health work, which, by the way, I loved. I loved doing that work. I loved helping people overcome challenges. I loved being present and there for people, working through such difficult things in their life. That was so meaningful to me. But I was getting stretched so thin. So when I took the subway home, small things would irritate me so much. And if someone bumped into me, I would get so angry and so upset. It's not even their fault, but it would just make me so upset. And then when I got home to my wife, and then later my daughter, she was 2 years old before we left New York, before I left this job, I had zero desire to interact with them. I had zero capacity to interact with them. And I hated myself for that. I hated that it was so hard for me to be present with them. I hated that I didn't want to talk to my wife, but I didn't want to talk to her because I spent all day being so socially present with other people, and I felt so depleted. So, oh my gosh. And me missing says, yep, the silent drive home. Yeah, this desire just to be in complete silence. Like what I really needed was to be completely alone for a while. And Dookie Cough. What? What a name there, Dookie Cough. I love it. My one of my favorite albums of all time is Green Day's Dookie. It was one of the first albums I ever listened to. I love that band, local Bay Area band, Green Day. Green Day for life, Dookie for life. Don't take that comment out of context. Comforting to know I'm not alone in feeling it. Yeah, absolutely. So this is and Mia Ashley, I know you understand this. We've had conversations about this kind of stuff. So that was a dead social battery. I was totally dead. If I had a few more hours by myself, just not interacting with other people, then I could be a nice husband again. Then I could be a nice dad again. But guess what? By that time that came, it was time to go to bed and my daughter was long asleep. So I had to do about it. I had to change something, right? So that is what helped me to really understand this whole idea of having a dead social battery. And why I think so many people are talking about this right now and experiencing this right now is because a lot of things in the world have changed to make it more the default that our social batteries are depleting quickly, and there isn't a lot in society that is replenishing them. I think so many of us feel socially starved. And it's kind of weird to think about that because, in so many ways, we are so much more connected now than we have ever been. And we feel so isolated. So, what's going on? What is happening in the world? Um, let's kind of talk about that in more detail. And I'd love to hear from you all in the comments. What do you think is behind this? Why do you think so many people are experiencing such depletion in their social battery? Why are their social batteries dying so quickly, and why aren't they being charged up? So let me know in the comments what it is for you that might be doing it. What might be depleting this stuff? Is it your phone? Is it social media? Is it coming out of COVID? Is it working from home? Is it there's no place to meet new friends? Is it just the overwhelming state of the world? What do you think it is? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But here's why I think this stuff is happening. So, first off, being social is real work. Now, if you're with people you really trust, if you're with friends that you really feel comfortable with, if you're with family members that you feel okay with, being social is not going to feel like work. It's going to be totally normal. But if you're out in public, if you are with people that you're not 100% comfortable with, it is work. You have to look and pay attention to other people. You have to be aware of what they're saying. You have to be aware of their nonverbals, like their facial expressions. You also have to manage your own stuff. If you're feeling not so good, you have to deal with that. For some reason, my daughter is usually super good about going to school, but for whatever reason, this morning, it was a complete disaster. She woke up just crying, saying she doesn't want to go to school. She's 8 years old. This doesn't usually happen. And it was a mess getting her ready for school. And I took her to school, and the moment she saw school, she started, her tears started drying up, and she's trying to like hold her breath. And that's that masking that we all do when we're not feeling well. and we know we have to go into a social situation, we all mask those feelings in some ways. And if you're in any way neurodiverse, if you're on the autism spectrum, if you have ADHD, if you have all these different things that you feel like you have to mask, you know this feeling very well. That, okay, neurotypical people can't handle XYZ, so I need to mask that. I need to try very good to have eye contact with them. I need to look at their noses and, because apparently neurotypical people get really upset when you don't have eye contact. So we try to do all these things to blend in, right? Social interaction is real work. You have to pay attention, you have to focus, you have to listen, you have to think about what to say, and you have to mask what's going on inside of you. Usually, this happens automatically. Usually, this is a good thing. If you've been inside a lot, it's very helpful to be in social situations to get the attention out of this internal universe and to the real world. Usually, that's very good. And usually, juggling all the stuff, it gets you out of your head, it gets you focused on other people. But just like kind of like a Wi-Fi router, if you have too many things on your network, the signal's going to go down. Things aren't going to function very well. And what has happened over the last 10 years is we have built a whole new way to deplete our social energy. It used to be that your social energy was depleted through real life social interaction, seeing other people at work, at school, in the neighborhood, in your community. Those are the things that kind of depleted you. And then we had phones. I don't mean smartphones, I mean like telephones, when we had these conversations, right? And then we had email, and then we had like really bad video chat, and then we had social media. And then social media evolved. It went from text-based, the Facebook stuff, and Twitter text-based stuff to much more immediate, kind of pseudo social stuff where you're posting stories or like TikToks with videos. And what has happened is two things. One, a lot of social impression management where you feel like you need to come across in a certain way. And the other thing that's happened is you're getting all these social cues of trying to interpret and understand other people. If you're on TikTok for like an hour, that's an hour of trying to interpret faces and understand and deal with all of this stuff. So we have to manage our impressions a lot more now through social media. And we also have to deal with this influx of information, social information that we didn't have to do before. That is very different. And that creates a ton of social complexity. And that is very, very depleting. There's very good research around this, that the more complex and unpredictable a social situation is, the more overwhelming and depleting it is. There's also a ton of research that when you're getting a ton of information coming in, that's overwhelming and you kind of shut down. That's what happens when you spend an hour on TikTok. And by the way, no one's spending an hour on TikTok. They're spending hours on TikTok. So the time you spend on social media depletes your social battery as much as time does in person. So both of these things deplete. And the problem with social media is it doesn't replenish. It does not replenish in the way in-person social interaction does. I posted this poll on my YouTube community about what replenishes your social battery. And I put like small interactions, like DMing people, sending texts, doing some kind of low stakes social thing, like playing a video game together, playing basketball together, going for a walk together. I put another thing that I can't remember, and then I did like a deep social conversation with someone you trust. I thought everyone was gonna say that the thing that helps me most is like low stakes, small social situations, but overwhelmingly, most people said that a deep one-on-one conversation with someone I trust is a thing that really replenishes. And I was really surprised by that. I didn't think people were gonna say that. And then I kind of did some deeper research into this. And the thing that most people think is going to help them is like sending a text. People think that like I would prefer to send a text, or I would prefer to do something that's lower stakes, less face-to-face stuff. And when we do that, we don't really like it as much. It doesn't replenish our social battery. But when we do things that are more live, whether it's a phone call or FaceTime or in-person conversation with someone that we trust, it replenishes. It might drain your battery making those commitments, doing those things. You might feel resistance to doing it and push back just from your own mind. But when you do it, it actually builds and replenishes. That doesn't happen with social media much. So the other problem that's happened over here is the pandemic has completely disrupted normal social development. And a lot of social interaction will happen automatically. However, as we get older, social interactions become more complicated. So there's a big change in making friends from elementary to middle school. There's a big change in making friends from middle school to high school. There's a big change in making friends from high school to college. And there's a big change in making friends from college. If you go to college, some people go straight to the workforce, to the workforce. And then there's a big change in making friends when you're older and you might be in your 30s and 40s. If you don't have those social opportunities, if you don't have an opportunity to learn from watching other people, you don't develop those social skills. It doesn't happen. Whether it's about making friends in the workplace, whether it's about learning how to ask for help in the workplace, whether it's about moving to a new place and trying to make friends there, whether it's about romantic situations, if you don't have the opportunities to learn, you're not going to develop those social skills. They don't happen naturally. It takes work. Friendships don't just happen naturally. They take work. This is one of the things where I get so angry at people who are attacking Gen Z. And there's so many opportunities that Gen Z has been robbed from. So many opportunities that were robbed from Gen Z, including all those opportunities for apprenticeships and internships during the pandemic. They didn't have that. And remote work has made it incredibly hard to learn these types of skills. I also hate this term, soft skills. People call social skills, social emotional skills, soft skills, but you know what? They're like the biggest predictor of success in workplaces, in schools, is learning how to deal with your emotions, learning how to connect with other people, being liked, all that stuff. It's the best predictor of all of this, and we call it soft skills. Well, all those soft skills were kind of robbed during the pandemic. So we're dealing with all of that. And this is in the background of the loss of third spaces. So what are third spaces? Third spaces are first spaces, think of them as where you live. Second space is your home. Not your home, but where you live, your home, first space. Second space is going to be school or work, where you kind of go every day. And the third spaces are where you hang out, where you have opportunities for social interaction with other people, whether it is a park, a community gathering place. When I was growing up, it was the mall, and stupid capitalism. Like the places I could hang out as a kid were also places where you needed to spend money, which I absolutely hate. But those, and arcades, definitely had to spend money there, but that's where I met a lot of people and we hung out. But those kind of third spaces have been on the decline for decades and decades and decades, well before smartphones. And one of the big changes here with phones and with COVID is people aren't really investing as much into third spaces anymore. And sure, you can hang out online, but it's not the same. Hanging out with a friend in person and playing a video game together in person is different than playing a video game online. You don't have the non-verbal stuff. You can't see if your friend is in a really bad state and needs help. You can't see that if you're just playing online. And the last thing I'm going to add here, and then I want to dive into the chat a bit, is the instability we're all feeling. The economic instability, the political instability, the technological change in AI. Everything feels so uncertain right now, which I think is driving a lot of stress and is making people feel like nothing really means anything. So right now, it can very easily feel like you're swimming in an ocean that keeps getting stormier, and you're trying to navigate this ocean, and it keeps becoming more turbulent, in more intense storms, more intense waves, and you're really struggling. Social is just a lot harder now. There's fewer opportunities to practice, and every interaction feels higher stakes. So this is a big challenge, folks. Ashley says Gen Z has also lost a chance to make mistakes without scrutiny. Yes, yes, yes. I made some very stupid mistakes when I was in middle and high school. I made this. I still regret it to this day. For English class, I made this incredibly homophobic video, and it is. I only realized it after I made it, and it led to this big eye-opening thing about this blind spot that I had and the work I had to do on that. I am so glad that I had the opportunity to make that mistake, get corrective feedback from people who felt comfortable enough to tell me that feedback in person, and not be canceled as a result of it. Because this is where I think cancel culture is a terrible thing, is people make mistakes, they feel massive shame at a scale on the internet that is not how humans are built. We are not built for thousands of people to descend upon us and shame us. And then are we in any way surprised about the mental health crisis that can create, and how that can make people go into a state of crisis and be really, their lives can be put at risk because of the shame that descends upon them? I was absolutely in the wrong for making that homophobic video, and I learned from it. I wasn't canceled for it. I learned from it. That wouldn't happen now. If the same thing happened now and that video was shown in class that I made, someone would be making a video of it, and it would be uploaded to social media before the day is even out. And I would go home completely in a state of crisis. Maybe I don't even tell my parents. And now I'm at psychological risk. So, yeah, Ashley, I completely agree with you. And the thing about being a teenager and a young adult is you make a lot of mistakes, and that's when you learn. That's how you learn. Gosh, it really frustrates me. On a brighter spot, Flora says, my first place is home, second place is gym, third place cafes and parks. And I love that. I love cafes and parks, and I think that also speaks to the challenge here, is many of us might have access to those things. Some of us don't have access to those things, because traditionally third spaces have been public spaces. You need cities to pay for it. And when I was growing up, the only way to hang out, or the only way to get stuff, was in a third space. So capitalism and social interaction sort of aligned there. And then Amazon has completely destroyed that, and not just Amazon, but other companies too. So a lot of this, like one of my favorite places to hang out as a kid was our local comic book stores. There's very few of those now. and it was a space I would go to and hang out, and I knew everyone that worked there, and they knew me, and I could just spend hours there. Even if I only spent like $1, I could just hang out there. It was a safe space in the neighborhood to hang out. And as Amazon has sort of completely remade the economy and everything's moved online, there's not a lot of opportunities for little small places that you can go to. Hob One Plays, hello. Hello, good to see you as well. Glad to see you're here. Let's see. I got a lot of other really great comments coming here. Let me catch up on some of them here. Dookie Cough says, walking up to a stranger and asking to pet their dog and making small talk for a couple of minutes gave a huge boost. Face-to-face interactions help so much. I love dog parks. I love dog people for this reason as well. I'm a dog person who doesn't have a dog right now because I have a 3-year-old and I clean up enough pee and poop. I'm not ready to bring in more life that I am responsible for. But I've been a godfather to many doggies, and this is one of the things I love too. This is why, folks, I always try. Oh gosh, where? Maybe you can find it. Let me see if I can find it, and I can do a little show and tell. Boom. Okay. This is why I always have. Let me take it out of my bag. I always try to have. Here's my little Star Trek pin right over here. It's magnetic. I love that. I can put this on right now, and it won't mess up my sweatshirt. But whenever possible, boom, and check that out. Now you know I am a super geek. So whenever possible, I'll just leave that on for a bit. I try to have something that can make me a little bit more approachable so I can hopefully have little conversations, little bite-sized, single-serving conversations and social connection with people, because it really helps me too. And I try to wear things that might spark conversation or communicate to someone else that I'm like a safe person to come talk to. It's good for me. It's also good for other people. And Nishal says that Gen Z stare video you did was so interesting, and it brought up so much division. I don't like making videos like that are kind of like right smack dab in the middle of a hot topic, even though everyone tells me I should make more of those videos, because it's hard to have nuanced conversation online. And I think it's much better in a live chat like this that we can have better conversation about it. But, oh gosh, I was super interested in that. And also the comments, boy, they came in hot and heavy. Let me see. Lowly Man for Christ also says, and if you watch propaganda TV shows that teach bad socialization, then you have a bad example as well. I think this is true in a lot of different ways, that we might not be getting the best role models for how to be social, how to interact, and how to have, like Mia Ashley is saying over here, a conversation that's fun and light with someone that I care about helps with replenishing my social battery. And it's hard to know exactly how to do that now. I don't think social media is a best example for that, right? And so many people now watch less TV, and most of the entertainment we get is from social. But I can tell you, social algorithms are built to service the most engaging, absorbing content that keeps you on the platform, which tends to be stuff that has a super powerful emotional hook that keeps you watching. That's not how humans interact. You know, we're built to like familiar people that we see on an often regular basis. We're built to share small details about ourselves, and as we feel more comfortable with someone else, to share more details, more secrets that show, hey, I'm a safe person, let's talk more. And then we take that person and we hang out with them in a different context than we usually see them. And that's how you become friends. We're not really learning those skills from social media, unless you're watching someone who's like good at that and teaching you that kind of stuff. But most of social media is really a lot of shock content that is built to keep you on the platform. That's not good. I don't like that. And that's not helping us at all. Chat, you all are being amazing here. I'm loving all these comments that are coming in. Um, all right, I'm gonna move forward over here, and we talked about the science of social battery and what's causing us all these sort of problems. So I mentioned before that I asked you all for your feedback, and I heard so much stuff from all of you, and I taking all these comments, reading through them. There's four categories that came up for me. What is behind your dead social battery? Some people don't like that term, dead social battery. Some people say, what brings your social battery to 1%? I think dead social battery is great because that's how we describe our phones, right? My battery died. And I think the parallel is absolutely true. So I found four reasons behind this based on what you all told me. So number one, burnout. Number two, masking. Number three, fear of rejection. And number four, just overload. And this is totally anonymous. I'm not going to share the names behind the people who shared this, but this is from all the emails, all the messages, all the comments that I got about this topic. So on the topic of burnout. And as we're going through this, if this resonates with you, let me know in the comment. If you're like, oh yeah, that's me, I'm totally burnt out, put that in the comment. I want to know. Like Koala says, mine was a pandemic. The pandemic was the thing that kind of just messed things up. I feel you. I feel you on that. So on the topic of burnout, here are the verbatim responses I got from some of you. I work 1.5 jobs for financial reasons, and my battery is always at 1%. I really relate to that as a father with two kids. It's hard for me to find the energy to hang out and just the time to hang out because my schedule is so limited. So that one really connects with me. Number two, I have three very young children at home. I relate to that. I feel like a dog that needs to be socialized, but I have no clue nor the energy to be fully present. That one really hit me. I feel like a dog that needs to be socialized. So you are so exhausted, so burnt out that you don't even know what to do and how to move forward from that. I think a lot of people feel that way. Even looking for events to go to tires me out. And this burnout from that, this really speaks to that loss of third spaces, that you can't just go walking down the street anymore. You can't just go to that random community thing that's happening because those random community things aren't really happening much anymore. All of the community stuff that we had in the 20th century, it's all sort of eroding away. And that is a very big problem. So now here's one more thing that you need to add to your list. One more thing that you need to manage is figuring out where to go and how to hang out with people. So this burnout stuff. So if burnout is your thing, let me know in the comments. You can just write burnout. I'm curious about that. But the changes in the world, that grind economy, the decline in community support and the increase in more solitary, isolated, suburban living that we have, this kind of grind we're all experiencing, it's been robbing people of joy and connection. Is robbing people of having the bandwidth to do this stuff, and it's creating more work for you, which, gosh, really pisses me off. I really hate this. We've done so many things here that are a problem. All right, that was burnout. Masking. Here's what some of you all said. Being with people is work. I'm a neurodivergent weirdo, and I'm fine with that. But I can't exactly be myself with most humans. Masking is draining. I totally get this. And one of the things I often talk to about people who are on the autism spectrum is the world is really wired and set up and biased towards neurotypical people. really vague social situations as opposed to social situations that have rules. Much more verbal communication versus more logical and linear information, right? The world is biased towards neurotypical people, and if you're neurodivergent, it can feel so depleting to try to fit in. And I think that's something that a lot of people are experiencing, is that masking fatigue. I try to socialize, but I talk too much. I'm afraid I kill the mood wherever I go. Yes, this is something that's involved here. And one of the things that happens, we talk about loneliness a lot, right? But what people don't really talk about is what happens when you've been chronically lonely. And a lot of people don't like hearing this, but I'm going to say it anyways because I'm a truth teller and I need to tell you the truth here. But when you have been lonely for a very, very, very long time, which I think a lot of people have because of the pandemic, because of the decline of third spaces, because of the growth of remote work, and when people say, I feel like a dog that needs to be socialized, you are probably someone who's felt chronically lonely. When you become chronically lonely, you are so desperate for social interaction. And when you have an opportunity to be social with someone else, you might dump so much on them because you're starved for social interaction. It's kind of like when you're really hungry and you haven't eaten anything all day, and then you go to a buffet and you just stuff yourself, and then you feel sick and you're like, oh no, why did I do that? Right? Like, if you're starving, if you haven't eaten in a long time, if you've done like the super extended fast, the thing that you shouldn't do is stuff yourself, because what our stomachs, what they do is they sort of get used to you being in more of a fasted state, and they're not ready for all this food to come in. So you're supposed to eat a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then maybe you can have a full meal once you're ready for it. So that's not what most of us do when we're starving. We eat so much and then we feel sick, and we do this exact thing in social situations. When we have been starving for social connection and we have a glimmer of connection, we will dump everything on that person. And this other person's like, hey, I don't even know you, or I haven't seen you in so long. Like, this is too much. So, what needs to happen there is we need to get feedback that, whoa, that was too much. Hold on. Like, let's bring it down, and let's make this bite size. And people need to get feedback that, hey, it's not just you dump on the other person. It's a little bit you, a little bit the other person, a little bit you, a little bit the other person, right? That's the kind of feedback that chronically lonely people need to get. And we don't talk about that with loneliness. We think all loneliness is the same, and it's not. It's absolutely not. There are different degrees of loneliness, and if you've been very lonely for a long time, it's gonna take some work, and you might need some resocialization. Right? A few more examples of this masking thing. I often don't know what to say. I feel like I lack humor and I don't understand jokes or banter. This also, when I hear stuff like that, it makes me think you might be a neurodivergent individual who is trying to operate by the rules of neurotypical people, which is just not fair. It's not right. And here my thinking goes, okay, how can you find people that are your people and where those people live, and how can you figure out what type of activities refuel you and what type of social opportunities deplete you. And so the summary about this masking thing is emotional labor is invisible. You do not see how hard people are working to be present in social situations and how much work it might be. But it's a constant. This emotional labor is constant for anyone who's neurodivergent, anyone who's anxious, anyone who's depressed, anyone who is struggling with something. Like, and it's not just about mental health, it can be about chronic pain as well. Sometimes chronic pain and chronic illnesses make it so hard to be outside, and just being outside is so difficult for you. One of my cousins is immune compromised. And for her, being in social situations is very dangerous now. And so she's constantly thinking about what's safe, what can I do? And she has to take these measures that push her away from a lot of people socially. And this is very frustrating to her, right? So this is a lot of work, and you don't see all the work that people are putting in to all of the to just being in a social situation, right? So if this is true for you, let me know in the comments. Sophia says, I have Asperger's. I started working with kids for the first time this year. It was so hard to socialize with them at first, but actually I'm starting to love it. Kids want to connect so much. Sophia, I love this comment. So I was trained as a child psychologist and child clinical psychologist, and I spent the first few years working very much with young kids. And then I learned I don't really like working with young kids because they come with parents. I love the kids. I don't like the parent part so much. I got a lot of parents that we called Jiffy Lube parents. Jiffy Lube is this chain of car oil chain centers where you drop off your car and then you expect it to be fixed in 45 minutes. I got a lot of parents like that would drop off their kid, expect me to fix them and pick them up an hour later and they'll be fine. That's not how it works, as you might know. But what I discovered is I really like working with teenagers and young adults. And the thing I learned that is really helpful with teenagers is you're just honest with them. And most adults are not honest with teenagers. They don't honestly listen, and they don't honestly reflect back. Like when one of my favorite type of people to work with is someone that doesn't want to work with me. And so I'll tell them, you don't want to work with me. You don't want to be here. And this is a waste of time for you. You know what? It's also a waste of time for me. I don't want to waste an hour just being here with you. There's so much other stuff that I could be doing. So how do we not make this a waste of time for me and a waste of time for you? And then people open up to that because that's teenagers want people to be honest with them. And so many adults are not honest with them. So it's a social skill I learned that really helps me connect with people, connect with teenagers. And I think the same is true of kids. Younger kids, they love when we play with them in the way that they want to be played. They want to play. So there's this thing called praise skills or pride skills. It comes from a treatment called child-directed interactive therapy. Am I getting that right? It's been a while since I remember that interaction. But basically, what you do is you follow the kid might be playing with some toys. You follow them and you play with them. You reflect back what they're doing. You you describe the play that you're doing, and you play with them in that way. And when you do that, you can connect with kids because that's how kids connect. Kids connect through play. So there's all these ways. I think there's all these social things that people can learn about how to connect with each other. It's true of kids, it's true of teenagers, it's true of making friends at school, it's true of making friends at work. But so many of us have been robbed of the opportunities of learning how to do this because of the pandemic, because of remote work, because of the decline in third spaces, all that stuff, because of the increase that people have in stress, right? Because of all the stuff, it's become harder to do this. But if you are able to do it, it's kind of like a superpower that nowadays, right? Flora says there are other boundaries like coming from another country. The culture is also something that makes people feel apart. I try to always learn more to improve my connection, even being a citizen. I think this is absolutely true. If you're in a new space, it can be very, very difficult to learn how to interact. Funderduck Thunderduck. I love your Scrooge McDuck thing. DuckTales. Woo! Gosh, one of my favorite shows as a kid, and I loved the remake. It was so good. That you can't do. You can't hear that theme song and not have a smile on your face. Anyways, you had a comment here. Your comment is, my country had harsh lockdowns from 2020 to 2022. I was physically alone 99% of the time. Humans weren't built for that. In the United States, we call that solitary confinement, and I believe it is a cruel and inhuman form of punishment in prisons. I wanted to, I didn't know how to recover from isolation. It really hurt my soul, and it sounds like it's continued to hurt your soul. We're not over from that stuff, folks. We want to feel like we've moved on from all of that, but we haven't. This is a long process of healing. And Koala said, "I relate, Thunderduck." This is all stuff that is going to take a while for us to recover from. And then the man 1777.3 says, I have noticed lately that I have zero interest ever in meeting people, and even if I do, I just see it as a waste of time. So here's where I'm going to dive into this too. Part of this is societal changes. And then part of this can also be individual stuff that might be going on. It might be social anxiety. If what depletes you is this fear of being judged, of saying something that might embarrass you, of rejection. If those things are what is making it hard for you to socially connect, and if those things make social situations so overwhelming, that's probably social anxiety. And if that's the case, then you need to check out my 3-part social anxiety mini course. I've got that way up in the comments. I've also got that in the description to this video. Super short and super detailed. It'll get you all the answers there. But if it's something more like the things that you used to enjoy, you don't enjoy anymore, that sounds more like depression. And depression absolutely can deplete your social energy. It can absolutely deplete all your energy and make life just feel more like a fog, like you're walking through this thing and everything feels like so much more work. So that's what makes having a dead social battery, complicated. 'Cause some of the stuff is societal, some of the stuff is individual, some of the stuff is related to mental health. So lots of different stuff can be implicated over here. A lot of this stuff can be involved. Cookie Dough says, "Woo!" Coming to the DuckTales stuff. Oh my God, you're singing DuckTales now, everybody! Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to hold back, folks, because I really want to sing the whole theme song now. Oh my God, myself a mystery, rewrite history. Okay, I can't. I gotta stop. Okay. Gotta stop here. All right, so that was masking. Let's keep going on here. Fear of rejection. This was it's perfect segue here. We were talking about social anxiety. So here's some comments I got from all of you. I want to befriend random people, but I'm worried I might come across as weird. That to me is social anxiety. I feel too boring and I lack personality, so connecting feels impossible. One of the things that we consistently do, lots of science to back this up, is we consistently think we are less likable than we actually are. And we consistently overestimate how much people are judging us. This is just something that humans do. But think about it like this. Most of us are stuck in our own head, thinking about ourselves and thinking about how we're coming across. Everyone is like that. Everyone is constantly thinking about themselves. And most people don't remember much at all about the other person, about what they're wearing, about the details of what they said. They don't really remember the awkward moments. The thing about social interaction is awkward. It's awkward talking to a new person. It's awkward starting a conversation. It's awkward to be in a new place in a new situation. That's just what it is. But we so fear that awkwardness. If you're someone like me who is wired for social anxiety, you experience more awkwardness than most people. Social situations are like playing a video game on the hard setting where everything just feels harder. There's more stuff coming at you, and you get overwhelmed by all of that. That's taking normal social awkwardness and making it feel more intense. But these things are awkward. We have to learn to deal with that awkwardness and move forward. But the events of the last few decades have made it a lot harder to do that. I totally get it. I've spent a lot of energy trying to establish relationships, but they fall apart unless I do 100% of the work. And this is one of those things where friendships are absolutely work. Relationships are work. But and everyone accepts that a relationship is work. But one of the things that I really hate is when a lot of older people do this and they dismiss the experience of younger people when they say, like, just go make a friend. Just like go do it. Just go meet people. No, you can't just go meet people. We don't have bowling leagues that we can just join and make friends. We can't just go out with your coworkers for a happy hour and just like instantly become friends. The world doesn't work that way anymore. Now, friendships take work. Friendships take work. It's not a accepted thing that just happens. Friendships take work. And how to do that, how to find that opportunity, how to learn those skills is difficult. And like Dookie Koff is saying over here, plus a lot of infrastructure where you'd find third spaces isn't really set up for folks with mobility issues in mind. So I definitely empathize Koala. What did Koala say? Oh, yeah, Koala says, I have mobility issues too, and it made me a huge impact on me being isolated. Absolutely. If in any way you don't fit the mold of quote unquote normal, which by the way, there is no normal, but if you don't fit the way in which people think what normal is, all of the stuff becomes harder for you. So whether that is related to mobility and access, whether that is related to neurodivergence, whether that's related to mental health, whether that's related to I was in lockdown during the most formative years of my life, and I do not know how to interact with people, or whether it's related to economic access. You know what's hard about social interaction? Not having a lot of money. If think about all the spaces that people might say, like join a club, go to an activity, go here, go there. All that stuff costs money. And if you are underemployed, unemployed, don't have a lot of access to those kind of things, you might not have a lot of opportunity for social interaction, right? So all of this stuff is difficult to do when your access is limited. So fear of rejection, and the last category that I want to talk about here is overload. Speaking of overload, I'm going to drink some of my coffee now, which is actually cold coffee, so not so good, but it's doing the job, getting me through, folks. So overload. So here's some things that I heard from you all. Even replaying a text, even replying to a text feels like climbing Mount Everest. And so this is one of those things where people might feel like, why is it so hard? Just respond to my message. There is a message I'm sitting on right now that I have not responded to that I need to respond to. Let me explain what happened. This person reached out to me. This is someone I haven't heard from in years. Reached out to me over text and said, "Hey, have you? I sent you a DM. Did you get it?" But this message came when I was traveling. And I think I got this message right before I was getting on an airplane. And so I was on the defensive. DM, oh my gosh, I missed this person's DM. What happened? Well, I miss a lot of DMs because I get a lot of spam on social media. So it's very hard for me to keep up to date on that. And then I was getting on a flight, got on that flight, totally forgot about this person's message. They responded again when I landed, and then they're saying, I really want to invite you to do this thing. Can you come do this thing? And then I was like, oh my gosh, what is this thing? I feel so overwhelmed. I need to find their DM. Their details are in the DM. And then I didn't respond because I was so overwhelmed. And now this person responded again yesterday. Now it's been a few weeks, and I totally honestly just forgot about this, folks. And now this person responded again and said, hey, did I do something wrong? Have I offended you? And now I'm feeling the shame and guilt. And what does shame and guilt do? It makes you not want to do anything. And so what I need to do is just kind of explain this all to the person. This would be all so much easier if I just ran into the person and I would just tell them face to face, but it being through text makes everything harder because now there's so much more I can think through. I hate this stuff, folks, but this happens to all of us. And so it's not so simple to respond to text so much. The more overwhelmed you feel, the less you do. And sometimes a simple text is not so simple to respond to. Something else I heard from you all: too much on my head to speak out loud. I have to declutter my thoughts, which takes too long. This, again, I mentioned this before. When you're overwhelmed by information, you do nothing. So news anxiety will overwhelm you. Looking at a TikTok feed for an hour will overwhelm you. Watching a bunch of different YouTube videos that are telling you different things about a topic overwhelm you into nothingness. Too many texts, too many messages, too many emails overwhelms you. And when we get overwhelmed, we do absolutely nothing. And so much of social media is built to do this. It's not built with the intention of helping you have a healthy social life or social health. It is built to keep you on the platform, absorb you, pull you in so it can serve you more ads. That's what it's built to, and what it ends up doing is really overwhelming. Funderduck says, is it most virtual communication like text, especially parasocial? I feel like most technology is a shadow of actual communication and connection. Yeah, so we tend to want these virtual forms of interaction because we think they're easier. It's easier to send a text than to have a conversation. It's easier to send an email than to talk to a person in person. We tend to think we'll like these better, but then we actually don't. And what we actually like better is, instead of a text, a call or an audio FaceTime. Instead of chatting with someone like this, like actually having an in-person conversation. We actually like those things better. They replenish our social battery. These other things just deplete it. And so that's hard because it's hard to get to that point. It's hard to do those things, right? The man says, sorry to hear about the text message. I can see you're a good person who didn't mean to do anything wrong. I think this is true of all of us, right? We want to do the right thing, and we want connection. We want to be there. And so much of the world makes it very difficult to do that and to find that connection, right? It's very, very, very hard. Shah Nawaz says, sorry for the spam. It's not your fault. Most of the spam is actually not from real people, but from like companies that are trying to exploit you. And what happens, I mean, so many of us get overwhelmed with spam. Like, who has ever picked up the phone in the last few years? Like, most phone calls are just spam. So I think so many of us are wired to be on guard socially because we feel like someone's out there to exploit us. So it's very hard when someone comes in with being genuine with good intentions and wanting connection, it's hard to figure out who actually wants connection and who is trying to exploit me, right? So it's not your fault. It's this stupid world we're in. The man says, very interesting about texts being harder. I think texts are a great way to get to that in person. And I've got a small group of friends. I've got two high school friends and three random college kind of friends, grad school friends that I'm super close to. And texting to them is like no energy, always good. Where it's funny, it's fun, but pretty much every other text feels like this. Like my wife hates text messages. She would much rather hang out with someone in person than respond to a text. Texts just overwhelm her, and she does not like them in any way at all. Um, Alien Moon Dudes. What a cool account name. Alien Moon Dudes. I no longer like to text my family and friends. I find calling more rewarding in the long run. Texting also leaves a lot of ambiguities since it lacks body language. Absolutely. You know what was a stupid thing that high school Ellie did? Instead of saying ambiguity, I would say ambiguosity, and I thought I was being really cute, but I wasn't. Um, my wife, who I met in high school, she told me years later, she's like, I thought you were such an idiot every time you said that, and you said that so much. Whoopsies. I've learned my lesson. But you're right, Alien Moon Dogs. I would actually, instead of a video to video, I would rather do an audio conversation with someone. I really don't like doing Zoom meetings, Google Meets, all that. I don't want video. I would always rather just do audio because I'm so overwhelmed from the day usually that I'd rather just close my eyes, have my earpods in, and just talk it out with you. Put my legs up, lie down, walk around, go for a walk and talk. That stuff feels so good to me. It replenishes me so much. But the video and face, now I have to keep up appearances. My hair might be messed up. I might be all sweaty like I feel like I am right now. And I might be getting too into my head. But when I'm just audio, I'm not so much in my head. I'm much more in this real space. So I feel you, Alien Moon dudes. Are there other Alien Moon dudes? Are you one of many Alien Moon dudes? Let me know. I'm curious about that. It can be Alien Moon Dude says it can be especially rewarding when you have a call expected to be 5 minutes turns into 1 hour. Yeah, so if it's fun, right? Like if you're having a good conversation and it just keeps going, you don't want it to end. That's beautiful. And Naishal says, why is that? Why are some people so easy to talk to? You don't feel drained after talking to them. It's a great question. And it's not an easy thing to find the right match of what you need in that moment and what the other person is able to give. I think part of it is trust, that you feel safe with this other person and you feel safe enough that you can reveal more of who you are. And I don't mean like deep, dark secrets, but I mean just like sharing your opinions. It's hard to share your opinions because so many of us fear being judged and rejected and being canceled and all this stuff, right? So you need trust so you can share a little bit more. And then when you share a little bit more, the other person will share a little bit more and there'll be some surprise and there'll be some fun there. And I think that's where a conversation really gets going and it gets really interesting. But to get to that place, you have to feel comfortable enough to embrace some risk. And that's very, very hard. It's very hard to sort of get to that place. All right, so we've talked about these 4 causes. We talked about burnout, about masking, about fear of rejection. We've talked about overload. And what I'm hearing from people is a lot of diversity. A lot of you feel little bits of all of these different things, which I think is pretty consistent with what I've been seeing in my work as well. Alien Moon Dude says, same here in a weird way. Video calls is also a bit too stimulating, where I also get drained. Audio calls is a perfect medium. I think we kind of peaked with technology in the late 90s. I feel like this is such a stupid millennial hot take that like we peaked with technology when I was a young person. But we had email, which was cool, and you weren't overwhelmed with email. We had phones, which were cool. We had a bunch of TV channels, and we didn't have social media and smartphones. And so when you went home, you were home, and you didn't have to worry about keeping a social life going and all that stuff. Boy, I think we had no idea how good we had it back then. And Trumongo says, I think your audio-only preference is why virtual YouTubing is so popular right now. That's one of the draws in it. I think you're right. And Dookie Koff says, I get super drained from talking to my friends and family when they're quite judgmental, but I have a couple of childhood friends that I don't have those anxieties with, and those are people that never drain my battery. Absolutely, I agree with you. Like, finding those people or those places or situations is key here to replenishing that battery. And that's what I want to talk about now. So in the comments, I want to know what recharges your social battery. And if that is hard to know, if it's hard to know what recharges your social battery, answer this question. What's one thing that made you feel more connected? It could be a recent thing or something in the past. So what charges you? And if nothing's charging you right now, what has made you feel more connected in the past? And I want to go through the kind of things that I think are our way forward, the kind of things that might help now. And before I do that, I'm going to drink some cold coffee once again. Oh, yeah. Cold coffee. Yum, 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 yum. Okay. So the absolute first thing that we all have to do is we really have to identify what drains our battery the most. What is draining our battery the most so we can find ways of reducing that in our lives. Just like Alien Moon Dude said that video is actually more draining and audio is more replenishing. Find what is draining from you, and then we can start thinking about what are ways that we can start limiting that from my life. So for me, 100% news is a source of information overwhelm that drains me just in all aspects of my life. Like, it's not even a social thing, right? Like reading the news. But when I get a lot of overwhelm from the news, I don't want to do anything anymore. And I think sometimes, especially propaganda, is built for that. It's built to overwhelm you so you take zero action at all. Now, that has to be tamed. And what I've done is I've shut down almost all notifications on my phone except for the core things, which are core messages from family, from friends, and from my kids' schools. That's kind of it, and emergency messages too. Things I need for work, for school, for family, for friends. If I need those, I get those notifications, but social media, off. News, off. Any game, any other thing I play, no, you're not notifying me at all. So those things super drain me, they're gone. The way I try to get news also has completely changed. I try to get news in audio only because if I read it, I get stuck into some kind of stupid feed. I don't need to get into another infinite scroll. No, thank you. I try to get my news in an audio only digest. That's more of a summary, like podcasts or daily news. I listen to a lot of my local radio station, which I hope doesn't lose all of its money and doesn't disappear because it's super helpful for my mind to get my local news that way. But I try to eliminate that stuff. Mia Ashley, so good to see you here. Always a pleasure to see you, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one. Good luck with your work that you do. Mia Ashley is also a mental health professional, and I've had the joy of following her career as she's become a mental health professional. So best of work in your best of luck in your session here. So number one, identify what is it that's draining you. So for me, news does it. For you, it might be a masking situation. So the being in these social situations where you feel like you need to put on a front and pretend to be a certain way. For you, it might be social or not social, but really shallow conversations, situations where you feel like you're doing all this small talk, but it's not really worth anything at all. If that's it, then we got to find ways to limit those, right? So number one, you got to identify what's draining you. You have to know what are the things that drain you. So another thing that drains me, one of the things that I've discovered as I became a dad is I'm not really in the business of finding new friends unless those friends are also like parents of my daughter's friends. And I know this might sound kind of weird to people who don't have kids, but let me explain. I have a core group of friends that I grew up with, two of them. I've got this small group of friends that I made from college and grad school. There's three of them. And then I've got a few friends that I made in New York that I still keep in touch with now that I live in California. So if we put that all together, it's maybe like 5 to 7 people, right? Uh, Most of those people don't have kids, and that's cool. I love them. They're great. But for me now to make new friends who are people who don't have children, it's very difficult because they have dinner at like 8, 9 p.m. They go out at 8, 9 p.m. That's when I'm putting my kids to bed, right? Like our worlds don't really align up where we can become friends. So if I get invited to something where it's a lot of people who don't have kids, I just don't go because it just doesn't fit in my life. So I tried to go to those things and it was so exhausting and overwhelming that it didn't really feel like it made sense for me. So I don't do those things anymore. I just say no to those opportunities. And your choice might be different depending on your life circumstances. But you have to figure out what are the social circumstances that are so draining that it doesn't make sense to do it at all. And don't do those things or try to limit those things. So that's number one, is identify what's draining you. Number two is find the things that charge you up. So as I said before, the thing I was most surprised by in my recent YouTube poll is people said the thing that charges them up most is a deep one-on-one conversation with someone that they trust. You're not going to get a deep one-on-one conversation with someone you trust through DMing. You're not going to get that through scrolling a TikTok feed. We have to be super intentional and do the work of building friendships. It doesn't happen naturally. And that most of the technology that we have, the default is not going to be to get you to this deep talk, right? The other thing that's really critical here that is probably going to charge your battery, not only are those deep talks, but micro breaks. So something that has been shown in research to really help people is to take an effective psychological break. What does that mean? So usually what is a rejuvenating break is a very big departure from the work you've been doing. Let me give you a specific example. When I was working super intensely with patient care as a clinical psychologist at Columbia University at the medical center, I would be so overwhelmed with clinical work hour to hour to hour. And during the small breaks of time I had, I did not want to look at the face of one of my coworkers at all. The last thing I wanted as a break from my mental health work was more social interaction. No, 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 no. I had been doing so much social work, not social work like a social worker, but I had been doing so much work that required my social muscles of compassion, of empathy, of listening, of interacting, of doing that dance of mental health with people, of helping them get motivation, of crying with them, of all this stuff, right? Such emotional work that when I had a small break, the last thing I wanted to do was exercise those social muscles. So what I did is I would go for a solitary walk to a coffee shop that was 10, 15 minutes away, get a cup of coffee, go out, sit in the park, and drink that coffee by myself and listen to music or a podcast. That is what helped me. That is what rejuvenated me. And if I didn't have time to do that, I watched silly, stupid Star Trek videos on YouTube, and that helped me. So, an effective psychological break is a big departure from the work that you've been doing. If you've been in Excel spreadsheets doing a bunch of math for an hour, then maybe like a social break is actually really good for you and is really going to help you. But if you've been doing a lot of social stuff, you probably need solitary time. You probably need time alone. And I know that might be hard given the work that you might do, but it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I'm giving you permission to do it if you can do it, right? So a good mental health break. If you're going to have a big social day, like you have to do a big social event, plan downtime for around that, the day before, the day after. And social downtime is not scrolling on TikTok, because that is still a social task, especially if you're seeing stuff from friends. It still activates all that social stuff. It might make you feel left out. It might make you feel like, oh, I should be doing some of this stuff. I should be managing all this stuff. No, you want to like get back to the art of solitary living, of doing stuff that's for you, unplugged from other people. That's probably what's going to charge up your battery. That also speaks to this idea of budgeting your energy when you know you're going into social stuff, having downtime. Think of your social battery like money. You don't want to spend it all in one place. You want to keep some money just in case, keep a little reserve, right? Or maybe just think of your social battery like your cell phone battery. That might be a better analogy than the money one. If you're going to have a day where you're going to take a lot of pictures and a lot of video, you're probably not going to be using your phone that much in the morning if you know you're going to be using it a lot in the afternoon, right? You're budgeting some of your battery for later. Or you might bring a backup battery that kind of charges it up, right? So if you're going to be doing a big social thing, you want to bring stuff with you that might charge you up. So whether you want to bring your Switch with you so you can play alone for a while when you're in this very big busy social day, or you want to bring a book with you, or you want to have some music ready to listen and go, whatever it is that is going to help you stay charged, find those kind of things. And then also, more is not better here. More is not better. So I always tell people this, that all you really need is one friend. All you need is one friend. And one friend you can actually talk to is better than 5 shallow acquaintances. And if you had to make that choice, make a choice to do something very small as opposed to a big group thing. The bigger the group, the more chaotic the social situation, the more work it is. So if you have an opportunity to make a choice, make a smaller choice. That's a smaller social situation. That's going to be a lot better for that. A few more things I want to talk to, because the chat is lit. You guys are sharing so many great suggestions over here. The other things is find a new third space. Something that I think is really cool. It's happening in some places. Cold coffee. Something that I think is really cool is people are trying to reclaim third spaces. I've seen this with libraries where a lot of people are trying to reclaim a library and build in social activities there that don't otherwise exist. And libraries are cool because they're free. You don't have to spend any money, and there's usually like no one there. And there might be ways in which you can go there and do some kind of activity. There might be some kind of like anime meetup. There might be some kind of movie screening. Finding activities. I heard a story the other day about oh, I'm blanking on the name, but like you know how there's Toastmasters and all these like organizations. Many of them have a rapidly aging membership, and they are looking for young people to come in and take over these organizations, and no one is doing that. And these organizations own great real estate. They have these spaces that are totally being left alone. And so is there an opportunity for stuff that's already going on there that you can just go to and and join this activity where you don't have to talk, you can just kind of listen and be there, and then over time you might meet people that you like, and you can form friendships there. So reclaim third spaces. The most interesting one that I heard about is some people are some Gen Z people are going to airports because they're free and you can go and hang out there, which to me is a little sad that you have to go all the way out there to like find a space where you can hang out where you don't have to spend money. But like we have to get creative about what is our third space now. Where can we go and we can actually like hang out without spending money and just kind of be in the presence of other people. So we had to find these new third spaces, which I know is not an easy thing to do. And if that sounds so overwhelming, because it does sound overwhelming to me, just find some kind of activity that is already happening in your environment, whether that is like a pickleball class. See if you can join that. I know it might cost money, but there might be like a video game meetup or some kind of club or organization. Going to these activities where there isn't pressure to socialize, but you can just kind of go and you can consistently go and just be there in the presence of other people, learn from other people, find uh, do a little experimentation, find what charges up your battery, what depletes it, focus on the things that are charging it up more. And then over time, the more you do that, the more familiar you'll become and the more comfortable it will be talking to other people and forming some friends that way. This is it's a lot of work, and this is kind of what I hate about the world now is we have to do a lot of this work to socialize, to connect. We can't take it for granted anymore. It used to be much easier to do this stuff of having the serendipity of running into each other and forming friends that way. But that's not the way it works anymore. We need to structure the serendipity where we're intentionally going to things where there's some kind of activity. Parallel play is great, where you're going to an activity where the goal is just to like play Smash Brothers, and that's it. Smash Bros. I never know. Is it Smash Brothers or Smash Bros? I don't know. But the goal is just to do this thing together. That you're not trying to make friends, but you're just doing this thing together. In parallel, you're playing together. You're doing something together, and then over time, things kind of work out. So find those kind of things where you can structure and engineer serendipity, where over time you might feel more comfortable with someone and then you can become friends that way. The other thing that I think is really great is like digital to IRL bridges. There's a lot of cool Discord communities where people have audio only hangouts on Discord, and some of those communities then do IRL meetups every now and then. I think those kind of like digital to IRL things are really cool and bring up a lot of opportunities to meet people around passions and interests you already have. This is why I'm doing this stuff more, folks. I want to be present and connect with you all. I don't care if this stuff gets less views. I don't care because it gets a lot more connection. And that's all I care about nowadays, is being present for you all, connecting with you all, helping you all to connect with each other. This is what we need now. Like, screw the views. I don't care about that stuff anymore. I want to, we got big issues happening in the world. And the thing that I think I can do most to make a difference here is to connect with all of you. So, speaking of that, I want to connect with you in the comments. Nishel says, yeah, it's rough out there. 100%. Loneliness is going up. Third spaces it has been going down. This has been happening for decades, way before smartphones. It's really hard out there. We've created technology that has removed all friction away from connection, and it's made us completely miserable. Completely miserable. So we have to figure out a new way through this. And that's why we're here. Hearing you talk, Doc, recharges me, honestly. Oh, the man. You are the man. 1777-3. Thank you for that. That replenishes me. Makes me want to do a lot more of this stuff. Oh my God. Alien Moon Dudes. Can we be friends? Photography helps me too, since I get to just focus on creating nice compositions. Puts me in the zone. My favorite thing, here, I'm wearing my Star Trek badge, and I'm gonna wear my camera badge because I love this bag so much. It brings me joy. My favorite thing that I've been doing lately is getting back into photography. I love this camera so much. I have distanced myself from photography the more I got into YouTube. And this year, I've been trying to get back into hobbies, like, because my mind goes in all these different places that are not good, right, about the world. And I thought, okay, let's pick up a hobby. So I thought it would be like writing fiction. No, that turned on too much judgment stuff for me. Then I thought it was cooking. I'll get into that. No, that made me feel also inadequate. But I got back into photography, and going on photo walks has been so great for me. I did photography in high school, in college, in grad school. It was my saving grace in grad school. It helped me so much. I did a project 365 where I took a photo a day for a year in one of the darkest periods of my life, in when I was getting my PhD. It really saved me so much, and now I'm getting back into it. And I agree with you, Alien Moon Dude. Alien Moon Dudes. Don't want to forget the S there. When I am doing photography, it helps me to be present in the world in such a different way, and it helps me to observe and find and create beauty. And then I get to share that with my close friends. And that feels so good. But I will say, Alien Moon Dudes, I made a Finsta, a fake Instagram for those of you who don't know, where it's only my closest friends following. And I thought that would be such a great, mentally healthy, supportive thing. And it's turned out to not be that case. It was for a little while, but Instagram keeps pushing me to follow more people, and it keeps pushing all this content into my feed that are not just my friends, and I hate that. So I think I'm gonna end that Finsta, because it's become more toxic, and I follow like 10 people, and and they're like my closest friends. So I think I'm just gonna have to text people my photo, which I hate. I hate that social media is so bad at being social. Like, when did that happen? Ugh, gosh, I really hate that. And then A says, kind of hard to talk when every third person turns out to be racist. And I think this is, gosh, this is hard. So many of us feel unsafe for very good reasons, and then also can really deplete your social battery, especially when that feeling of masking, like, I don't know who's safe, so I need to hide as much as I can about myself because the world is inherently feels so unsafe, is very real. And it is very real. And this is where I think a lot of, this is where I hate, I hate so much of what Jonathan Haidt has to say, and I think he really misses this. He likes to talk about how the world is such a safer place, and and that we're coddling people, and people need much more unstructured, unsupervised time. And I agree that kids especially, need a lot of unsupervised time, and smartphones. Yeah, they've done so much crap for us, and at the same time, it is very hard for anyone who feels connected to any community that feels marginalized or attacked or unsafe right now to navigate this world. It can feel like you're very much on guard and unsafe, and that can make it very hard, very, very hard to socialize. Um, and then Vest says, city noise is something that drains me. I feel noise pollution is really a thing. I love some quiet mornings or afternoons, and I don't use my headphones, and I avoid walking on busy roads. You and I both. So I'm someone who has definitely developed misophonia, where there's certain sounds that I hate and instantly put me into rage. My wife's flossing is when she's flossing her teeth. That's one. And what makes this especially cruel is that flossing super calms her down. So she likes to floss on the couch late at night while watching TV, and that just puts me in a rage mode. So we've talked about it, we've worked it through, but there's other areas where misophonia is activated for me, this hatred of sounds. And what it usually is when there's a sound I believe does not belong here and is making it hard for me to be present in the thing I'm supposed to be doing, which maybe you, Vest, can connect with here, that city noise. Yeah, that I experienced that when I lived in New York very much every single day. I lived in this, when I lived in the Upper West Side, we had this old window that, due to city regulations, could not be replaced. And that window just let all the noise in from the outside world, and I could not sleep. Then I became irritable because I was so sleep deprived. It was so hard. Oh my gosh. Jackhammering is another one that's a city noise that makes it very hard for me. So I definitely relate to you. And then Vest says, what recharges me is physical activity. Anytime I have the opportunity to walk, I would. I like dancing. I love animals. So I take on requests to look after my friends' pets with great pleasure. Absolutely. So this is a great comment, Vest. I love that you're saying here an activity that's not social. So sometimes when our social batteries are drained, we need solitary time. Sometimes we need to do things that recharge us that are not social activities. Like something that will always charge me up is, I'm getting back to this, but when I've had a long, difficult day, watching old episodes of Star Trek will always invigorate me. I've seen it a million times. I know exactly what's going to happen, but it's completely familiar, completely helps me to get out of my head, to smile, to enjoy, to remember some good times, to spend some time with these characters that I love. It always rejuvenates me. Spending time with animals, super rejuvenating, super helps me. I've been a godfather to many different dogs for this reason, because it always helps me. And I love going on a walk, especially if it's a photo walk. Those kind of things, super rejuvenating. Sometimes reading a good book can do that for me as well. But if the book is getting too close to reality, then it's a no-go for me. The man says, I so agree with you about the news. What drains me is when friends talk about tough topics like the news. So the man, I've got a family member and I've got a friend who kind of treats me like their social feed. And anytime they come across very difficult news, they text it to me. And I hate that. It's very, very difficult. They're also these two individuals, who I can't eliminate from my life. And so I've mentioned it to them that, like, this is really hard for me. It takes my brain to a very not so good place. So can you not do that? They still tend to do it. So I just mute them and I only look at their feed every now and then and I quickly glance through and it's very difficult and I don't like it. And it is one of those problems I'm dealing with. Um, all right, let me see. Let me see. Liz says reading recharges me to start social life back up again. I love the solitude and quiet, and that's awesome. Liz, a book that helped me a lot this year was reading Lord of the Rings for the first time until they got to the spot where things started to get really scary, and then that didn't help me. Um, and now I'm reading other stuff. But I agree with you. It's all about finding those things, finding the things that drain you, trying to navigate around that, finding the things that charge you up. And then if you feel really isolated and alone and you're trying to make new friends, finding activities that you can just go and show up and you don't need to socialize. You can just be there. That's going to be a big part of this. And the big umbrella over all of that is social media is not going to do these things. And social media is going to be part of what's going to drain you. And that is not what we can go to. Alien Moon Dude says, I feel the same way as you, Cookie Dough. Sometimes I go back and forth if I should go to an event alone, but I never regret it once I go get outside. The hardest part of having a low social battery is going to be finding the motivation and energy to get going, to go to an event. So I was at, gosh, I'm so I'm so tired now. I was at DreamCon. DreamCon is this Black-owned streaming anime gaming conference in Houston. I was at DreamCon a couple of months ago, and I was doing a panel over there. But the day before the panel, there was this big meetup for YouTubers and streamers and all that stuff. I so didn't want to go. I so didn't want to go because, again, I'm an aggressively extroverted person, as my friends say. I was tired. I had a long flight, and I felt really out of place because I'm not really a streamer. I'm not Black, and I didn't know anyone there. And I don't know anime and gaming. So I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Right? I felt very out of place, and I was invited to this event. And I knew this is always a feeling I get. Always a feeling I get is I don't want to go to that place because I don't know anyone. And you know what I told myself? I said, hey, Ali, if you don't know anyone, you can leave and no one will know it and no one's going to miss you. So I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I don't know anyone. I can go. If it's completely terrible, I'll just leave. And no one's going to be like, hey, Ali, I saw you at that event last night, and then you just left. Because no one knows me, so I could just do that. And that's what I did. I showed up. And what was kind of cool is they had some cool swag. So I liked that swag that I got. But then I did meet some people who also didn't know anyone. And we connected, and I actually ended up staying until the event ended because I really enjoyed meeting those people. And I stayed long enough that I ran into someone that I hadn't seen in like 10 years. And they were like, you're here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm here. You're here? They're like, whoa, cool. So you never really know. And what I try to tell myself is going to these events that I don't want to go to, but I feel like I should because I want more connection. I can always leave. I can always leave after half an hour. If it's completely terrible, I can leave. Because that's the hardest part when you have a low social battery is finding the energy to go to the thing that might charge you up. That's what's so hard. It's like that panic you have when your phone's about to die and you're running to find a charger. And you know it's going to be good when you find that charger and you're going to charge up your phone. But you got to find it. And you might run around and ask people and they might not have a charger and it's super scary and intense. That's that feeling that we often have when we might go to an activity that might help us find that connection, but we so don't want to. What I don't want you to do in that moment is to default to just like scrolling a social feed. This false pseudo sense of social connection that all it does is it harvests your attention, it sells you crap that you don't want, and it completely depletes you of any energy. As you can tell, I've got strong feelings about that. Dookie Koff says, 100% alien moon dude. The anxiety before doing something is always worse than actually doing it. I 100% agree with you. Folks, I have one more question for you. One more question is, what is your takeaway from today? What's one word that you're taking away from this conversation? And what I am taking away from this conversation and preparing for this stream, thinking about it through, is, so many of us feel like we're broken, that there's something wrong with us for not having the energy to do what other people think is just so easy. But it's not easy. And you're not broken. You're drained. And you're drained because of all of these changes that have happened to how we connect, the less opportunities we have to do that, and the things that we've been given, how they actually rob us of the energy that we need to find that real connection. Here's a good thing. Whatever is drained can be recharged. We need to know what depletes us, what energizes us, and find easy ways where we don't need to perform, we don't need to mask, where we can just kind of show up and just be, and do that consistently, and we'll find that connection. It's very, very hard. It's very hard to be in this world that is so draining. And it's not really built in a way to restore us. It takes a lot of work. Please don't stay always on in this world. Don't always be scrolling. Don't always be scrolling. That should be like a sticker or a t-shirt. But don't always stay on in these places where you think it is invigorating you. You think you're being social because you're not. You're not being social. Social media stopped being social a very long time ago. And it's become this advertising game now, this game of harvesting your attention and reusing it for nefarious purposes. We have to be really intentional about knowing what depletes us and what charges us. Think of yourself very much. If you want to say you have a dead social battery, think of yourself as a battery. Like, your phone can be at 1% and you can slowly recharge it. And if it's fully depleted, sometimes it takes a longer time to recharge. But just like a phone, you have to charge it every day. And some of us have bigger battery capacities and some of us have smaller battery capacities. And some of us carry a bunch of batteries with us and our charger with us at all times. That's okay. If you have a phone like that, you know that. You know you need a charger with you at all times. And if your social battery is like that, then walk through life like that. Know that my social battery depletes quickly. So I need to structure my life in a way that I have the things and I communicate the things and I go to the things that help me. We have to be intentional about this stuff. It's not automatically going to happen. And one of the things that super invigorates me, folks, is this live connection with all of you. Oh my gosh, this is legit the best time of my day today. I know it. I was so exhausted before. I was up late actually prepping what I wanted to say for this. What I wanted to do is have all these slides and go back and forth and bada bing, visuals and all of that. I ran out of time because I've been parenting alone. My wife is away for a few weeks on business. So I've been up late because I'm dealing with all the stuff with my kids and their lunches and the blah, 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 and the cleaning and ugh. But spending time with you has given me so much energy, and thank you for that. I love this connection, and I want to know what your takeaways are over here. I'm getting some really good ones here. I want to make sure I get everyone's. I want to make sure I get everyone's responses here. Nigel says, my takeaway here is that we think we are alone in this, but this problem is way more common than we think. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm not alone. A lot of people are going through this. Nigel, this is the number one problem I'm hearing from everyone. I wish I could share all the responses I got from people in the prep for this live stream. This is the number one thing I have ever received feedback on. Louise says, are these lives going to become a more regular thing? Heck yeah, they are. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to do a Cozy Brain Hour on Wednesday. And that's just more of a fun hangout thing. So what I'm going to try to do, one fun hangout, one more like educational, working through an issue like this one live. I'm going to try to do that on a regular basis. But the casual hangouts, those are going to be happening all the time. Luis says, thank you for giving us this time with you, and thank you for giving your time to me. Cookie Dough says, randomly clicked into this live after work, and it's exactly what I needed without knowing I needed it. Yes! I love being exactly what people need without realizing they needed it. That's such a great, fun place, super meaningful place for a YouTuber to be. Thank you for that. Cookie Dough says, hopeful and reassured through shared experience. Yes, that's why I wanted to do this live, so we can talk about this in real time. I am not this elder, despite my gray beard, I am not this elder wise person who has all the answers. I have experience, I have knowledge. You have experience, you have knowledge, and together we form a community that can really help each other learn, grow, have fun, and support each other as we go through this stuff. That is what we're here for. Flora says social media drains us 100%. 100%. All those social muscles are activated when you're doing social media, doing DMs, scrolling through the stuff, and it's not giving you the things that replenish you. It's just taking away. It is just extracting value from you without giving you the nurturing and nourishment that you need. That sounds like an abusive relationship to me. The man says, feeling less like a failure for the challenges I face. 100%. I deal with this stuff too. We all are dealing with this stuff, and it's a lot harder to be a normal social human. Like I said at the very top of this live stream, humans are not built for this social world that we have created. Vest says relatability. A quote that I think defined this shared experience is, what? You too? I thought I was the only one, by C.S. Lewis. Yeah, absolutely. We are not alone here. Nigel says anti-social media, more like it. Absolutely. Absolutely. An Alien Moon Dude says, united in this feeling that there's starting to be a rejection of what technology, of where technology is taking us. Yes, I'm feeling that, and I'm super hopeful about this. I think there's something changing here, and I'm excited to ride this wave to see where it goes. This was an awesome live stream. Thanks, Doctor, for creating the space. Thank you for being here. Lowly Man for Christ says, so excellent, and so excited to have you here. Thank you for being here, folks. So do me a favor. Let me know here in the comments, where should we go next? Should we go deeper into an aspect of having a social battery, of recharging it? Should we talk more about how to create a third space? Should we talk more about like the nitty gritty skills of how you make a friend as an adult, or should we go into a different topic? Let me know in the comments, and if you're watching this as a replay. Let me know in the comments there too about where you'd like to take this. Again, this is all about community, folks. I am going to show up for you. You're going to show up for me, and we're going to guide each other on what we need. This whole topic came from you. This was not a topic that was on my radar. It came up because so many of you kept mentioning it. And I was like, social battery, dead social battery. What are you talking about? And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. This is stuff that I've been going through. So please, please, please let me know what you want me to do a deeper dive into. And already Flora's blind box says how to create a third space, and I think that is a great topic over here. Is how do you make that space outside of home, outside of school, outside of work, where you can actually interact and connect with other people and find some sense of community. I'm wondering what else people want a deeper dive into. Please, please, please let me know. And with that, folks, this has been an awesome live stream. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be back in 2 days. We're going to do a cozy brain hour. That's just a 1 hour hangout where we play a bunch of fun mental health improv games. It's a totally chill space. I'm going to try to do as many more of those as I can on a regular basis because it's just super fun and easy for me to do. And please let me know in the meantime in the comments what you would like me to do a deeper dive into next. Thank you, folks. Thank you, chat. And boldly go, my friends.